Welcome to this Killik Explains finance video. This week, pension freedoms, a quick review, and 3 things that can go wrong. Now, coming up then, let's look at what pension freedom means, a quick summary, and then summarise scams, cashing out, and the dangers of relying on the state as 3 potential risks. Okay, so a quick recap. When we talk about pension freedoms, we're primarily referring to a particular type of pension. It's not really what I call the defined benefit or final salary scheme. Those, yes, you can pull your money out of, but it's usually a bad idea, so let's leave them to one side. What I'm talking about primarily here is the defined contribution, or money purchase plan as it's called. Quick reminder, that's where you and/or an employer put money into a fund as you're working. Those contributions attract tax relief up front, hopefully grow while you're working, not retired. There'll be a few charges along the way, but you end up with a pension pot. And pension freedom was largely about what can you do with that pot? Now the answer is more than you used to be able to. You're still restricted, you can't start before the age of 55, but you could in theory take the whole fund as cash. Usually a bad idea unless it's very small, because you only get a quarter of it tax-free and the rest is taxed at income at your marginal income tax rate. So an alternative would be to take smaller lump sums out, bearing in mind the same rules apply, up to 25% tax-free, the rest tax potentially, or bearing in mind you could be retired on average for 27 years. If you're 55 now, according to the government, you need to organise yourself an income, so another option would be to turn a chunk of that pot or all of it into an annuity, that's an income stream from a life insurance company, or draw income off as you need it and largely preserve the capital and keep it invested. All right? So lots of choice. So what are 3 of the pitfalls? There are more than 3. What are 3 of them? Number 1 is being ripped off, talking to the wrong people about pensions. And there are lots of offers they might try and make to get you through the front door. Access your entire pension now, they might say. Why wait until you're 55? They might say. How about taking out a loan in advance and pulling some of that pension out ahead of time? And why just limit yourself to 25% when you could take out more? Now, all of these are dubious statements. So how do you know you're getting sound advice? Well, common sense checks. Look for appropriate qualifications. Look for experience in giving pensions advice. Look for FCA authorization, and you can check that on the website, as I've listed the address there, and then do a kind of smell check on any advisor. Do I like them? Do I trust them? Can I imagine handing over actual money to them? Combine all that and hopefully you won't get in touch with the wrong people. Now that's number 1. Number 2 is cashing out. Now there was stuff around in the press, Daily Mail in particular, about the risks of pension freedoms, including people cashing in their pension pots and buying flash cars. Doesn't seem as though that's been happening. The ABI has come up with some figures for the first quarter of 2016, suggesting that from 80,000 schemes, 57% of the withdrawals made were below 1% of the total value of the fund, and only 4% were for 10% or more. So that's quite encouraging, people being relatively prudent so far it seems. But here's a slightly odd thing. The Citizens Advice Bureau have looked at withdrawals on larger funds, if you like, and it seems that 32% take money out and stick it in the bank. That seems a little bit crazy given where interest rates are at the moment, and also the fact that you've probably worked hard to invest it to build the pot. Why would you pull the cash out and then stick it in the bank? That doesn't seem very sensible, bearing in mind you need to maintain the purchasing power of this money for years to go yet, even on retirement. 22% are treating themselves and only 18% are investing. And that seems, as I say, a little bit crazy, seems a little bit chalk and cheese. All right, you're investing to build the pot. Why wouldn't you be investing to kind of maintain it? Now, some people have said to me, just as a side note, I cover this in more detail in other videos, what about buy-to-let? Well, this is not a great idea as a first-time entry into this market on retirement. I'm not sure that's a good idea. This is my personal view. I think, based on that graph from the Nationwide, the best years of buy-to-let were sort of there and are now behind us, so I'm not sure the property gains are there that we've seen in the past. Then, of course, there's George Osborne and all his changes to the rules on tax, so it's now more expensive to buy them thanks to stamp duty changes. Wear and tear allowance has been changed, mortgage interest relief is being reduced, and you pay your capital gain tax bill early. And don't forget, on second properties, there is a capital gain tax bill, and that was all before the Brexit effect. So I'm not sure that the tax changes make this particularly attractive. Combine that with all the costs you suffer up front in particular, as well as on an ongoing basis, and I'm inclined to agree with property commentator Henry Pryor on the left here that people buying a house this year are likely to be out of pocket for the first time in 3 years. Dan Gandesha has said that buy-to-let as a cottage industry might even be dead as far as amateurs are concerned. So a word of caution there. Now the third risk is relying on the state pension. Just be a little bit careful here. Some people think, well, I'll just fall back on the state pension when it kicks in. First of all, minimum pension age is 65 for men and 63 for women, but that's rising to 66 by 2020 and could go further by 2030, so there's something to watch out for. And the maximum, this was a rule change from April 2016, the maximum is $155.65 per week, but that's based on 35 years of national insurance contributions over a working career. Don't have to be consecutive, so people who've taken breaks and or done contracting out need to be a little bit careful there. And to even get the minimum pension, you need to have had or contributed 10 or more years of NI contributions. So a couple of changes there to watch out for, and don't forget the rules can change at any time. Okay, quite a lot of ground covered there. Any questions, editor@killik.com. And if you want to see videos on other topics, including that buy-to-let point I made earlier, please go to our library at killikexplains.com.